So hello folks, this is Param here. Welcome all. In this lecture, we'll talk about start getting started with PySpark using Python library. So well, the main agenda of this lecture is we are manually creating data frames. Data frames are the building blocks. So in order to work with Spark, in order to work with data in using PySpark library using Python. So but before that, in general, if you are using Spark and if you are using Python PySpark library, let's say in a local system, then you should undergo some basic steps like import PySpark and from spark.sql import spark session, etc. We have to undergo these steps. These are mandatory not to work with. But as you can see, I am using Databricks workspace. So and in this workspace I've just created a notebook and I titled it as phase 1. So if you are working with Databricks notebook workspace, then you don't need to really undergo these steps, as this notebook is uh, by default it's using Python language. We can actually shift to other languages as well. I'm using Python. So if you are using Databricks workspace or Databricks not notebook, so you don't need to really undergo these steps. You can just start directly working with it. So so how does internally that things go in sense, uh, this Databricks notebook internally creates a Spark session itself. So let's see Spark. So if you are a Python user, then you should be knowing what type function will return if you use on any of. So let's see what type function gives. So it says Spark itself gives and Spark session. It creates a Spark session. So yeah, well, let us also note, you may be not aware of this function like dir, which gives list of attributes that we can undergo with Spark. See, these are the list of attributes or like functions. So in this for this lecture, we are majorly interested in create data frame. So what does this says? So actually, Spark itself creates an object. So with that object, let's create a data frame. So what does this says? So let's use type function on it. It will describe that. It's a method. So by default in Python, methods means functions. So create data frame is a function which takes some attributes. So let's see what are those attributes. So if you are not aware of what are these things, let's say what is create data frame function means, we can use help function. If you are a Python user, you should be knowing that these things, what helps does, what uh, I mean type function returns. So let's see what Spark dot create data frames actually returns are what actually it does internally. So help on method, it's a function create data frame. It's create a function internally. So the function is create data frame and it takes some attributes, data, schema, and also verify schema. So let's talk about those things. See, yeah, well, what are the parameters that create data frame takes are data, which can be RDD or iterable of RDD kinds. It can be a list or data pandas data frame. or numpy data in array. What so let's see what schema tells more about. It takes strings or list, which is optional, a data string or list of column names. When schema is a list of column names, the type of each will be inferred from data. So if you specify the column names in the schema section, then the type of data will be inferred from the data itself. That is what it says. And when schema is none, it will try to infer the schema from the data. So if you have given as schema can be optional, if you give schema as none, then it says it will inform the schema from data itself. So let's also see that sampling ratio, which is optional, we don't bother about that, and also verify schema, it is optional, we don't need to bother about that. So let's create data frames. So we can create data frames from list of tuples. This is one of our agenda, and also list of dictionary items. This is also one of our agenda, and we don't really get into the from RDDs and from row instance. We don't need. And we also we also talk about creating a data frame with explicit schema specified. So let's get into it. Well, before that, I create a data using a list of tuples. Let's say one and Rahul and two Rajesh. Javed. See what I've created is I have created a list of three tuples, and in this tuple I have, in the sense each tuple refers to each record of data. So in each record of data we have specified two columns, in the sense two fields, which is 1 2 3 as one field, and Rahul, Rajesh and David as another field. So let's also create a data2 of list of dictionary items. So let's create them as well. uh, yeah, if you are working with dictionary items, then you should be know that dictionary items takes uh, key value pairs. So what does that mean? We should specify that what is the key and its value as well. Yes, yeah, this is same as the tuple that we have created here. So it's the flower bracket itself is that it's a dictionary item. So the dictionary item takes key and respective value, and another key and another respective value. So in this way we'll create another two records. So for time being, let's create them as 4 5 and 6. So yes, we created that data. Let's create data frames. Let's see. So yeah, well, we have created. Yeah, it should be an integer. Sorry, it should be a string. I'm not specified that. Yeah. As we have created data, so we'll comment that as well. So let's create spark. Sorry, spark dot create data frame, and let's give data one as data. And as we know, schema is can be optional, and other attributes will be optional. We have to specify data specifically. So let's store that in a variable as STF, and we'll print what is STF. Yeah, we can see that it is a data frame, that SDF is a data frame, and with column 1 or field 1 as big integer and column 2 as string. So as we haven't specified that what are these column names, that PySpark internally gives these field name as 1 and 2. So let us also specify that as well. Let's create another tab and queues. Schemas list of items like ID and name. Let's run that. Schema. So as we have specified schema, then we should be seeing that these have been changed. Sorry, the field names has been changed from ID and name. So as we have specified. So we have created a data frame using a list of tuples. So we also create a data frame from a list of dictionary items as well. So spark dot create data frame using data2, and let us store that in variable sdf2, and let's call that sdf2. So what does it says? So sdf2, this id, this big integer, name, this string. So as we have specified in the list of dictionary items that it takes ids and names as field names. So those were reflected here, and yeah. Yes, let us create a data frame with explicit schema. So for that, let us see. We should import Spark types, SQL types, and we have imported everything. We have to import everything. So let's run this. See what it internally says is. So let's print this SDF.print schema prints the schema of that created data frame. So let's see that the field one is ID, the name of field one is id, which is long integer, and it is nullable is true. So when we are creating data frame, we should be very specific that what are the fields that can be nullable, in the sense what are the fields that cannot be if we are familiar with the SQL primary key, that primary key can't be null value. So we have to be very specific for that. So in order to specify for the data frame that we're creating, we will use uh, schema with struct field and struct types. So for that we need to import some of things like from PySpark dot sql dot types import everything. There are many things we have to import everything. So let's build our schema. Schema equals to struct type, which takes a tuple of list. In the list we have to specify struct field. For the field 1 or the column 1, the name is id and the type is integer type. Let's see what integer type spelled. Integer type, integer type. And can it be nullable? No, false. And the second struct field of second field is name, sorry, name, and it's a string type. And can it be false? Can it be nullable? No, false. So don't worry about this syntax or everything. I just replicated what is described here, that struct field takes a tuple of list, and the items in the list are about each field, struct field, and the struct field takes three arguments or three inputs, which is name of the field and type of the field and whether it is nullable or not. That the same I have replicated here. So let's run this. So with, let's say that this is schema 2. So after specifying schema 2 in our data, let's see what print schema says. This has to be false. Yeah, we can see that after replacing schema, it's schema 2 that we have specified as now, and we can see that the schema has changed now, which is id field 1 name, and it is an integer type, and also see nullable as false, and same as respect to the field 2. So this is how we can create uh, our data frame using PySpark manually, and also we have to specify that each field or type and its name, it's whether it is nullable or not. We have to be specific about those fields as well. So well, we can create our data frames using list of tuples or list of dictionary items. So yeah, that I have forgot something, that how to print your data frame. Like we can use dot show function. So using dot show function, we can print our data frame as well. So yes, we can see that we have print our data. So yeah, this is how you can create and specify that fields manually. So let's discuss a few other concepts like running our word count program in the further lectures. We'll catch in that later.